This is the Global Gambit. So, okay, now I mentioned Soviet doctrine. So this is obviously, we touched upon the vertical command, horizontal. So I'm kind of curious from your perspective, though. There are remnants of what you're saying is the Soviet doctrine in the Ukrainian forces, but it's obviously still basically what has been prescribed in the Russian approach to things. Putin has a very strong hold, I think, despite being a terrible master strategist, to quote one online sort of parody account, right? What are we learning from the Russians, or very little, about their inability to stop this this counteroffensive? At this point, you know, the Ukrainians control hundreds of square kilometers of very sensitive and symbolic, Russian territory. What are we learning about the Russians' ineptitude here?
There's two or three things that come to mind immediately that should give us optimism, and that should also inspire or drive how we support Ukraine to be successful. First of all, the most obvious thing I think that has resulted in a thus far slow and ineffective Russian response to this is their command structure and the bitter rivalries between all the different organizations and institutions inside of Russia. The border forces belong to the FSB, and then you have Rosguardia, and then you have the general staff and the regular forces, and even inside regular forces, you've got conscripts, you've got mercenaries, you've got professional like the VDV and the naval infantry, who used to be the most respected and capable Russian forces. All of these groups hate each other. The general staff has no interest in seeing the FSB be successful or seen as the heroes for saving things. Yet the Kremlin put the FSB in charge of dealing with the Kursk counteroffensive. So I think there's probably a lack of coherence in the command structure, in how they assess and how they respond. That's number one. That's to the advantage of us and Ukrainians. And so playing on those divisions and hatreds and rivalries, I think that's a vulnerability for the Russian side. The second thing is related to that, the logistics. You know, before this war started, I was really impressed with the ability of Russia to move a lot of stuff real far, real fast. Trains, large aircraft, gazillions of trucks, etc., that transport. Now, you know, that logistics system is under enormous pressure, partly because of the losses they've suffered over the last 2.5 years, but also, again, with this command structure, somebody at some level has to say, okay, priority is now eliminate the Kursk salient, and you send these forces here to here. So that's when the clock starts on marshaling the trucks and trains and things that are required to move thousands of troops with all their stuff and ammunition to where it's needed. And it is several hundreds of kilometers from the Pokrovsk area, for example, around to get up to the Kursk area. That is a challenge. And especially if you were not anticipating the requirement, even Russia will have some challenges marshaling enough transport to do that quickly. And then finally, the third thing, we have been reminded that the Russians absolutely do not care about losses, how many people get killed. That it means zero. And so how many Russian troops are killed is not a good metric or indicator of success. The only metric that matters is Putin, does he believe that he's winning or losing? And do people around him believe that he's winning or losing? Because losing, of course, is unacceptable in that system. And so I think that the objective has to be something that creates big pressure on him and on the people around him, versus counting how many Russian troops have been killed. I will add one caveat to that. Conscripts. If you've got young men from Moscow and St. Petersburg that start getting killed and captured, that will be different than the 600,000 men who have been killed or captured that are from everywhere else inside the Federation.